Hi, everyone, and welcome to Simple Marketing Academy. This is where small business owners, entrepreneurs, and solopreneurs come to learn very simple, cost-effective marketing techniques so they can gain more clients, make more sales, increase their revenue, and grow their business. My name is Jill Fox, and I am the co-owner of Fox Social Media. Along with my son, Tanner J. Fox, we help businesses, practices, and brands to market, advertise, and grow online. And we've been doing this since 2010. So happy to have both the Simple Marketing Academy podcast and the Simple Marketing Academy show on YouTube so that we can help all of you as well. So let's get started.
In this video, we're going to be going over how to find and vet different influencers for your business, and is it actually worth it to pay them, and how to make sure you're not overpaying if you are. Now, when it comes to using influencers for your business, there's a couple different main types of influencers, and it's really based off of how many followers they have. Now, it's going to vary from platform to platform, but generally, there's 5 different categories of influencers. You have your nano influencers, which are obviously the smallest. So that's usually anyone under 10,000 followers. Then you have your micro, which is 10 to 50,000 followers. You have your mid-tier, which is a lot of the influencers and where they're going to land, which is around 50 to 500,000 followers. You have macro at 500,000 to about a million. And then you have your mega influencers at about a million plus. And sometimes there's an extra tier on the end of that where it's celebrity, where it's someone who has a huge following on social media and also off of social media as well. So with those different tiers, there's usually 1 or 2 that you really want to hit on. And we'll talk about that towards the end a little more when we see the cost and how many views and those kind of things that they get. So what type of things do you want to look at when looking for an influencer? Well, if it's to promote your business, the first thing you're going to want to look at is that their audience is relevant and their content and them themselves are relevant. So if I have a health product, I don't want to go find someone who's in the fashion niche. I want to find someone who's in the health niche because I want their target audience or their demographic to align with my product. Just because someone has 1 million followers doesn't mean they're going to perform better than someone with 100,000, let's say, because the niche does matter. People who have a really strong following that are very hyper focused on a certain piece of content or a certain category, I should say, of content are going to perform a lot better than just a huge general audience. So making sure the influencer aligns with your brand. Obviously, if you're a very professional brand, let's say you're looking for business individuals maybe, or do a service that you want them to promote, you're not going to do someone who's doing pranks and comedy. That's not going to align properly. So you want to make sure their brand values, any products or services you offer directly align with their audience and how they present themselves as well. And the audience demographics, obviously you want to make sure you have the age, the gender, the interest kind of goes into the same category there, and make sure that it's actually worth it, because you wouldn't spend a bunch of money advertising your product to a bunch of people you don't think want it. So you need to make sure that it is relevant. Now, the next thing to consider is the platform the influencer's on. Platform makes a big difference for how content performs and for how followings interact with an influencer. For example, a lot smaller following on YouTube is usually going to perform a lot better than a big following on TikTok. Now, again, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because TikTok, it's hard to get people to take actions on that platform. So with TikTok, it's a lot of scrolling. It's a lot of seeing content from people who aren't necessarily your following, because you start on that For You page. So it's harder to build that audience and get people coming back over and over to the same TikTok profile. While YouTube, the main thing people watch are their subscribers. You're instantly put into that subscriber tab. So that following is usually a lot more involved and dedicated to that influencer than something like a TikTok or something like an Instagram. And also the type of content they're posting matters, because if someone is on a video, that's usually going to evoke more emotion. They can promote your product different than just a picture on Instagram. So when considering price and is it worth it, how many views you're going to get, not all views are created equal between platforms. So the platform does matter. Usually YouTube, and you'll see the price directly correlate with these when we talk about it. YouTube's going to be the best, then something like an Instagram or a Facebook, and then usually a TikTok. So it will vary, and we'll go over it a little bit more. Now, another thing you need to consider is the quality of their content. You don't want someone who's just throwing out tons of different pieces of content that aren't doing great. They have maybe 1 or 2 good hits every so often, but they have 30 pieces of bad content, and they're just spamming that out. You want someone that you know their followers are going to come, look at their profile. They're going to watch that piece of content. It's something they're going to be interested in. So you want to make sure they're not just throwing out poor quality content and then promoting your brand, because a lot of times they'll associate the two. So that's one more thing to consider. Now, one of the important aspects that sometimes people overlook is the engagement rate. Yes, an influencer might get a lot of followers. They might have a huge follower count, but they might not get that many views per post, or even their engagement rate might be pretty low. And this is something you can analyze to make sure someone's not botting an account where they have fake followers, fake views, those kind of things. So you can look at engagement rates, so their likes, comments, shares on a post, and see what is realistic, who has a pretty active audience, and who's making good content for that audience. And a lot of times you can tell by the views or by the engagement rate. Now, I have the average engagement rates below, but what you need to keep in mind is that the larger the following, the lower the engagement rate. And that's normal on all platforms, and that's just how this kind of market acts. So the average engagement rate for Instagram is about 3.5%. TikTok, it's 4.6, YouTube, it's 3.9, and Facebook, it's 0.6. So you can see how these vary a lot. Now, platforms like TikTok and Instagram, most people are very used to just liking a post and then quickly going. So things that you need to consider as well is how long is the average person staying on a post? If it's a video, if you're having a YouTube video and they're putting you at the very end of the video, well, probably 10 to 20% of their followers are going to reach the end of the video. That's it, or those viewers. So you have to keep that in mind. How many people will actually see the ad if you are doing it inside a video, or what type of piece of content? So engagement rate does matter, and you can see these overall just going into a couple of their most recent posts, or you can use a tool. There's a lot online where you can just put in someone's profile and it'll tell you their average engagement rates. I normally like just going to a couple of their last posts and seeing what kind of engagement rates they have. And if it looks realistic, or if it looks a little bit low, then I might put them on the back burner for now. Now, the last couple of things you need to consider is past collaborations. So this is usually a great way to look at how a certain influencer's advertised posts will do. So not just their organic content. And this kind of goes more into, do you want to let them create the content around your post and kind of give them guidelines, give them that creative freedom, which I would recommend doing? Or do you want to tell them exactly what to do? Because they'll normally know their audience. So a lot of times you'll want to let them create that piece of content. And obviously you approve it, but you can give them some guidelines, let them put their own spin on it. They know their audience and what will perform well. But looking at their past ads that they've posted, you'll be able to see how they promote brands. You'll be able to see how those posts do compared to their normal posts. If they completely bomb out, let's say they normally get 100,000 views and they're getting 5 to 10, then you probably need to take some notes on why it's doing that if you are going to work with this influencer, or maybe look for other ones as well. Because some influencers will put bare minimum, just do it, while others know that it matters and will put more effort into it and make it more relevant to their audience. So looking at how well previous campaigns for their other brands have performed. And another thing to look at is how frequently are they posting ads? Some people have built up accounts and they're ready to get out of these big accounts that they've made. They're not making enough money. It's too much work for them. So they'll just take on as many ads as they can the last couple months to just get as much money out of it before they kind of dump that account. So you need to make sure they're not just posting real post ad, real post ad. You don't want to see a ton of ads compared to normal content, because obviously their followers will start to wean out and people will stop watching it. So you need to make sure they're posting a good amount more actual content compared to how many ads they're actually posting. And that kind of will go hand in hand with the reputation of the account. Obviously, you want to make sure they're not involved in any scandals and that their reputation's good and their values align with your brands as well. Make sure they don't have a ton of negative feedback. Now, if you're working with someone who's very big, there's always going to be negative stuff out there. So you need to take that into consideration and make sure it's actually valid and if it's something you're still willing to consider. And then you want to look for someone who's authentic. Again, if someone's just spamming ads, that's not someone who's going to convert well for your product. And that's not going to be someone who really has a reputation you want to work with. The more trustworthy and credible someone comes across, the better they'll be able to promote your product. And if they're saying good things about your product, then that obviously is going to matter to their followers and how well your product converts. Now, when it comes to the cost per influencer, these are the averages. Now, you do need to, again, take this with a grain of salt because these are averages. I've seen a lot different for all of these, but for the 4 main platforms, this is per post. And again, that means an average. It could be a video post, it could be an image post. A lot of times influencers will work with multiple packs of posts. So you get 3 posts for this rate. Sometimes posts can stay up for 24 hours. They can stay there permanently. You might get a link in bio. All those things do go into the cost of the actual ad. Are they making the content? Are you making the content? How much work goes in? So when it comes to those nano influencers, if you look across the board, you're going to see TikTok usually be the cheapest, then something around Instagram, and then YouTube and Facebook. Facebook is not nearly as popular for these influencer ones, so I would probably stay away from Facebook more, work more with YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. But normally those nano influencers, those 1 to 10,000, are usually going to be 10 to 25, $50 on average, I'd say. Nano, I wouldn't normally recommend unless you're a very niche down product and it's very hard to find influencers around that niche. And then you have micro, which is normally anywhere from, I'd say, $50 to $250 to $500 you can get in there. And the micro influencers will normally have a very high engagement rate. It's normally people who are really interested in whatever they're talking about in that category. So micro influencers, I think, are probably the most bang for your buck and what you should start with when doing influencer marketing. And then you get to your mid-tier, where that's normally going to be people who have 100,000 plus followers. And that's going to be anywhere from, I'll say you get normally around $200 to about $500 to $1,000, depending on the platform, the category, and those kind of things. And then you get into the really big ones where you have to know your product's going to convert to really start working with people who have 1 million plus followers, or even the 500 to 1 million, that range. It starts to get pretty expensive. You're looking at 1,000 to usually 5. And then when you're working with people who have 1 million plus, now this does not really go for TikTok as much, but when you're working with people who have 1 million plus, you're looking at usually $10,000 plus, depending on how big they actually are in their audience. So a lot of different factors influence how much these people are able to charge. Again, I've seen people on TikTok who have a couple million followers only charge $500 to $1,000 for a post. It's going to depend on the niche. They know what their audience is usually worth, so you're able to negotiate with them. Maybe you get multiple packs. But these are really the average cost per post for influencers. And this is something that you're going to need to kind of calculate when you're looking at different influencers. You take however many views they're getting on average. Maybe you look at their their previous partnership posts and see how many views they're getting, compare that to the cost, and then you can compare that directly to running a Facebook or an Instagram ad, because that is kind of what you're comparing influencer marketing to. You're comparing it to running an ad, which we'll just say on Facebook and Instagram is around $10 to $12 per 1,000 views or impressions you're going to get. So you need to compare that to if someone's getting 100,000 views on a post and I just paid them $1,000, then I know every 1,000 views is about $1. So I need to compare that to my ads and see, is that similar? Now, influencers should cost a little bit more because you are getting the trust they've built with their audience and that relationship compared to just running an ad from a random Facebook or Instagram account. So you do need to compare these, see which is the best. And there's different platforms. If you want to use them, there's a lot of paid ones. There's some free ones where you can find different influencers in different niches and negotiate with them, talk with them, and see what you think might work best. But really, those micro and mid-tier influencers, especially the micro, are usually the best bang for your buck. You're going to see good engagement rates, and it's usually good to test. Now, when it comes to actually converting, their job is to get them to whatever website or page you're trying to push them to. But once they're on the page, it is your job to convert them. So if you don't have a web page or a sales pitch or something that's converting well, or even a call to action where you're giving a discount or something along those lines, it's not going to convert regardless of what the influencer does. So it's your job once they get on that landing page to convert them. And then you can see maybe this type of audience does well, this type doesn't. So these are all the different things you can do with influencers and really what you need to look at and think about before you start working with one.
Tired of feeling overwhelmed with marketing your small business? Let our experienced marketing team help your business grow. With personalized strategies tailored to meet your needs, we'll help you stand out in a crowded market. Contact us today for more information at foxsocialmedia.com. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at foxsocialmedia.com. On our website, you'll find that we have done-for-you services through Fox Social Media, where we help businesses, practices, and brands to market, advertise and grow online, and we've been doing this since 2010. This is a done-for-you service. We also have services for very small business owners, entrepreneurs, and solopreneurs who can't afford done-for-you services. And this is a very inexpensive program called Simple Marketing Support, where we're there to teach you, support you, and answer your questions. You can find more about all of our services if you go to foxsocialmedia.com. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.